Live here on the Game Plus television network, coast to coast across Canada, Game Plus TV, and in 32 U.S. states. The Western Dodge text line is bursting with comments from the viewers. But first, we got to go to our man, Jim Lawson from Woodbine, Executive Chairman. Jim, you're such a great sportsman. Ontario sporting royalty, as far as I'm concerned. We got a lot of things to talk about, so thanks for the time. Happy belated birthday. And I think you guys just came through a pretty exciting thing with the King's Plate over lunch. Am I right? You had the draw?
Yeah, we just had the post position draw for Saturday at the King's Plate, and 13 horses, and we're locked and ready to go for Saturday.
Oh, it must be nice. You got through COVID and all the horrible headaches you had with that. Do you feel like you're back to normal, rocking with the King's Plate?
Yeah, absolutely. Sold out crowd, big day. It's been building over the years as a big social event, and that was the goal to introduce a lot of young people to the sport of horse racing, and it we'll see evidence of that on Saturday for sure. It'll be a big crowd and mostly a very young crowd.
Well, I see that at horse racing events in Calgary. Really young. They don't go for the race, I don't think, Jim. I feel like they're going for the party. Is that the goal? Is that the thing?
Yeah, they go for the party. There's no question about that. But they learn a bit about racing and they like the atmosphere. And a lot of people come back. Well, as I say, we've got a big piece of property here, 8,000 seats, and we're completely sold out, plus our dining rooms. And there'll be a huge crowd outside. So it'll be a big day and a fun party.
Well, I'll tell you what. So there's a lot of things to get to here. And Woodbine has made the jockeys available for interviews and stuff so that your communications department said, "Oh, why do you want to talk to Jim?" I'm like, "Because I like him. I like talking sports with Jim." We only do it like once a year. So before we get into the horse racing, you're a Toronto sports guy. Like the Blue Jays right now, number one from what I understand, by far.
Well, not by far. They're up 4 games on the Red Sox. The Red Sox have slipped a little. They lost 4 out of their last 5. The Yankees are lurking around. They've got a couple tough series. I'm going tonight to the Chicago Cubs game in Toronto. Cubbies will be tough. Texas has got great pitching and their hitting's coming on, and they have Texas up next at home this week, end of this week. So everyone's hopeful. Hopefully they did enough at the trade deadline. The Blue Jays, they brought in a couple new really good arms, and Shane Bieber is about to come back from rehab, and he's a absolute superstar if he comes around where he's capable. So there's reason to be excited in Toronto, but no question the American League's tough, and the National League is even tougher. So let's just worry about the American League for now.
Well, I knew you'd be on top of it. And that's the thing is what I hear is that the city's on fire with Blue Jays talk. And I'm kind of having fun asking my guests, does this remind you of anything? And people are saying, yeah, it reminds me of opening day in 77. It reminds me of 92, 93 World Series, or it reminds me of the pennants back-to-back 2015, 2016. What memories are being evoked for you right now with this pretty fun run here?
Yeah, I was at all of them, of course, but I was there in 92 and 93 at all the games. I think this feels a little bit more like 2016, 17 when they built those teams, when they brought in Tulo and David Price at the trade deadline. It feels a little bit like that. Like there's a potential that 92, 93 team. Those two teams were just exceptionally strong. Doesn't feel like that's what we've got here, and I'm not trying to be the expert, but it feels like this team, if everything goes right and these arms fall into place. Scherzer's pitched really well for them, and as they said, Bieber comes back. They've got a good starting group. They've got to get their bullpen to fall in line properly. They had a bit of a faux pas the other night, but they managed to win in LA the last game. But it feels a little bit like, as I said, the 16, 17, not as much 92, 93, but I can tell you this, Rod, the city is definitely a buzz. So what you're hearing is right. It will be sold out tonight in every game in this homestand.
Well, listen, we'll get around to the horse racing, everybody. But Jim, we got him for about 15, 20 minutes. There's a lot to get to here. Just with the 92, 93 team, Dave Winfield was brought in. Joe Carter was brought. We all knew who these guys were, and Robbie Alomar was already there. There's a lot of guys with the Jays. Jim, I watched the game. But who's this Mason Fluharty? Who's this Lofer Dino? I feel like they kind of came out of nowhere, some of these guys.
Well, young guys, a young guy like Loperfido, they got at the trade deadline last year. They've got some young talent. Guys have stepped up. I mean, Clement is hitting. He was hitting close to 300 most of the year. Barger, they call him on the broadcast, Bam Bam Barger. I mean, he wasn't even with the team in the beginning of the year. He's got about 18 home runs this year. Springer has played exceptionally well. They're waiting for him to come back from concussion protocol, but. They've had a lot of young guys step up, and the pitching staff, they do have some veteran starters, but they've got some depth there. So they don't, in my view, they're missing that big bat. They were hoping that it would be Santander. It wasn't him while he was playing, and now he's been out and may not be back this year. But there's certainly room for optimism, especially in the American League. I think they're as good as anyone.
Well, last one on that. Do you feel like maybe if Vladdy picks it up, but let's be honest, he has been pretty quiet since signing the big deal, which I know doesn't kick in until next year. And even Bo Bichette probably could do a little more. Like if those guys were 10 out of 10, that might be enough to take him.
Yeah, listen, I think Bichette has been 9 out of 10. He's been really good, really clutch. I think he's leading the major leagues in hits. So Bichette, check the box on him. As you raised Bichette's name, my only concern is whether he'll think of coming back here next year. He's contracted. He's a free agent at the end of the year. Vladdy has been better than he's been given credit for in a couple of ways. One, I think he's a very good fielder, which he doesn't get credit for. And secondly, since the All-Star break, he's been hitting for average, and he's had a little more pop in his bat. So let's hope he picks it up a little more, as you say, Rod. But there's room for optimism. Springer's got to come back and continue. Varsho's come back into the lineup, and he's got a lot of pop, and he's a good fielder. They've got some interesting decisions this week because they've got their second baseman Jimenez coming back off the injury reserve, and then they've got Springer coming back. So they've got a position player decision as to who they set down on the roster probably by the end of the week if they can get Springer back.
There you go, everybody. I don't think Jim planned to come on here and talk as much baseball, but I knew you could. And we'll get to the CFL in a second. Jim is the former CFL chairman of the Board of Governors. But to the King's Plate, explain this a little more with the draw today. Your horses, what's the field like and what the atmosphere is going to be like on Saturday?
Well, I'll start with the atmosphere, then go to the race. The atmosphere will be party central. Food trucks, there'll be people dressed to the nines. There'll be a fashion show. There'll be live music. It will be just one big party. And it's, as I said, over the years, that was our goal, to grow it in stature with the younger crowd. And certainly we've achieved that. And there's a buzz about the King's Plate and as a social event. It's a sporting event, but it's becoming the social event on this calendar for the summer. It'll be fun, and it'll be electric. We had a terrible situation with rain last year, and it got rained out. But this year it's going to be warm, maybe hot, but hopefully the rain will hold off till at least Sunday. It's not going to pour the way it did last year. As far as the horse race, Rod, it's wide open. There are 13 horses in the race. The favorite in the race is a filly. Again, fillies seem to come out of the Canadian Oaks, which is the big 3-year-old filly race in Canada called the Canadian Oaks. And it's run the same day as the Plate Trial, which is the prep race for the Colts. And the two winners are coming out of that. But Mark Casse, I like his filly named No Time, owned by a guy named Gary Barber, who owns hundreds of horses. Mark himself has been the leading trainer at Woodbine for more than a decade, and she'll be tough. She drew post position 10, which shouldn't hurt her, going 1.25 miles, and it'll be an exciting race. And she's got the services of Hall of Fame jockey Johnny Velasquez, so it shapes up to be a big race day. There's lots of other good races and lots of big wagering opportunities, so it'll be fun.
I was going to say, do you have any idea how much will be wagered on it? You guys track that sort of thing, don't you?
Yeah, very carefully. Those that's like that's like saying, does Walmart track its sales? Yes, we do.
Yes. Do you make it public? Do you make it public?
Yeah, absolutely we do. We're hoping somewhere in the 15 to 20 million dollar range will be wagered on the day, and I'm hopefully safe in saying it'll be 18 million plus, but we'll know more on Saturday.
166th running of the King's Plate. Where along the way did you get involved and why?
Well, my father was involved in thoroughbred racing, and he was in the lumber business in Hamilton. He was the youngest winning quarterback ever to win the Grey Cup uh, in in '43 with the Wildcats. And but my father's sideline, and he was always very heavily involved in the Tiger Cats. And my uncle, who played in the first Tiger Cat team in 1950. My father got involved in racing. He just liked the sport of it. And I started coming to Woodbine when I was about 8 years old, which, given my birthday, would mean about 1965. And I, uh, I didn't get involved in Woodbine until I joined the board in 2008. And then I started thereafter to dabble in owning and breeding racehorses. But I became chair of the Woodbine board in 2012 and took over as CEO in 2015. And then I stepped down in 2023 as CEO and appointed Michael Copeland, who was the former president of the Canadian Football League for 8 years that I worked closely with. Michael worked mostly with Mark Cohan when Mark Cohan was a commissioner, and Tom Wright before that. And so Michael's doing a great job. He's been in the CEO seat for almost 2 years now, and I've continued on as executive chair. And I'm very involved in the real estate here. We have 700 acres of land, Rod, and we just announced a major train station hub here with a GO train and a Union Pearson stop and a light rail transit stop, and that's all coming in the next 5 years. And it will just be the key to and the catalyst to unleashing the value in these lands, all of which is to benefit ultimately horse racing. So it's pretty fun
Wow.
to be involved.
Well, that's the thing. I've been following you for a long time, known you for a long time, and I feel like you get involved with these things without the plan of running them all. But that's what ends up happening, right? That's just the way that it goes. You're just that kind of guy. And the thing is, the reason I tiptoed around the betting is you have to tiptoe around the betting. Like,
Yeah.
you must find it really interesting in sports how that's just gone. It's always been big in horse racing, but it hasn't always been big in sports.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I mean, it's not going away. Betting, and it's certainly, I've seen the evolution. I worked very hard with the federal government to make sure these mega sports betting companies couldn't bet on horse racing, because that, quite frankly, would have put us out of business. Now, the flip side of that is we're now starting to take our pari mutual product, which horse racing is pari mutual wagering in this country, and we're tacking it on. We've been a partner with Bet365. Today at the draw, we announced that we're putting our tote system on OLG, the Ontario Lottery and Gaming Corporation, which has a big footprint. So now you'll be able to go on the OLG website and bet on horse racing. So it's an interesting one. And the Canadian Football League, worked for years as that evolved, and whether we'd allow betting kiosks in stadiums and all those issues associated with wagering. It's, as I said earlier, when you asked me about the number, for our business in horse racing, betting is our sales. So we have to be focused on it. We have to increase wagering. And it's an interesting thing. I mean, I heard your listeners comment about the CFL or the NFL. Well, the NFL has done a masterful job with their wagering. I mean, how many people tune in on Sundays? It's a 12 to 14 billion dollars of revenue now at the NFL. It's a behemoth. It's not going away ever, and they've done a masterful job of putting their sport in conjunction with wagering to the benefit of the NFL. I mean, it's a behemoth, and good for them. And they've been very clever about it. And they've also managed to attract a strong woman demographic. I'm not suggesting that has much to do with wagering, but they've done a masterful job of attracting women as fans of the National Football League.
I tell you what, if you wrote a book, I'd read it. Why do you think that, from what you can say, the CFL has not exploded? You're still a part owner of the Ticats, are you not? Like, maybe you can't say too
Yes.
much, but yeah, where's that league going?
Yes, I am still a part owner of the Tiger Cats, and am very involved. I would say that, listen, it's a big challenge. There's no secret. I mean, there's still a question mark on MLSE, 100% ownership of the Toronto Argonauts, and what that means for the league and what that means for the franchise. I don't know. It's the obvious question that's lurking out there as I'll say, a gray cloud. I don't know what Edward Rogers' plans are with the Toronto Argonauts. Certainly, I've been heavily involved since 2011 with the Canadian Football League. But as you heard me say earlier, I've been involved my entire life through my father and uncle. And before that, my grandfather owned the Hamilton Wildcats and owned the Hamilton Tiger Cats when he first merged the Hamilton Tigers and the Hamilton Wildcats to become the Tiger Cats. So it's been growing up, it's been my whole life. And I would say that more than anything, there's perseverance. It's part of our Canadian culture. I'm very proud to have been part of it, and I think that when you go to Mosaic and you see that game on Saturday, be a big crowd. That's Canadiana. That's the heart of Canada, and I just think that for that reason, this league will persevere. The interesting question is the relationship with the National Football League. I worked very hard with a committee, working with Todd Lewicki in and around 2015 to see how we could promote I won't call it a merger, but a partnership with the NFL, and that fell off the rails. It didn't fall off the rails for any good reason, but because we were down to negotiating 3 down versus 4 down and the 1 yard halo and stepping out. And so I think there's still something to be done with the NFL. Whether that's the savior or not, I don't know. But the Canadian Football League is a great league with great talent. And again, I think underestimated the degree of talent in the CFL. And, sitting in Toronto, I just sometimes, wish people could go out to Mosaic or go out to Winnipeg and go out and see just the fervor that there is for this game. And they'll quickly learn the Canadian Football League's not going anywhere quickly. I'm a big fan and friend of Stu Johnson. I think he'll do a great job. He's got the television broadcasting rights coming up for renewal, and I think that's an opportunity as opposed to a risk. And so that gives me more confidence because Stu is a very capable guy and the right guy for the job. So I'm very optimistic.
I don't know him hardly at all, other than he's been on this show, but I hear it's going in the right direction, and we're flat out of time. Well, good luck getting that ring with the Ticats, Jim. Thanks for the time, and we'll be watching on Saturday.
Yeah, well, I'll be watching both on Saturday.
All right. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate you. Jim Lawson, such a great guy, executive chairman at Woodbine Entertainment. The 166th Kings Plate will be run on Saturday at Woodbine. We'll be coming right back with a sports update after this on Game Plus TV.